Urban communities. First, what is urban communities? For us to fully understand the concept of this report, we may want to define first the two terms always being used, the word urban and the word city. Urban refers to the quality of life that is typically found in cities, while city is a relatively large, dense, and permanent settlement of socially heterogeneous individuals. Urban communities cover a large area, which means that good roads and a public transport system are necessary to enable people to commute from one place to another. Population density is high, resulting in problems such as traffic congestion, housing shortage, pollution, and garbage disposal. But there is a positive side. There are amenities like shopping places, cinemas, restaurants, clubs, and amusement halls. How can an area be defined as an urban places? The National Census and Statistics Office, or NCSO, defines urban areas on the basis of size and population density. Other criteria is distinct street patterns, non-agricultural occupation, and the presence of public and economic establishments. How does an area turn into urban? It is where the term urbanization is being involved. It is the process of concentrating people within a relatively small geographic area. It is also related to social change and growth. It involves the transfer of tribal, peasants, and other rural population to urban lifestyles. The time of urbanization. When does an urbanization era occur? The first urbanization areas or cities occupied about 5,000 or 6,000 years ago in the Middle East and Egypt, northwest India in the Indus River Valley, and in the Yellow River Basin in China about 2,500 BC. In Europe about 2,300 BC and 1,900 BC, the Rome is the greatest city. Urbanization occurs, or we can say that urbanization also spreads from one country to other country. Urbanization has taken place in the developing countries of Africa, Asia, and Latin America. A number of cities were founded as a result of colonialism and imperialism in order to serve as administrative centers and sources of raw materials for the colonial power. Urbanization also takes a big part to the history of the Philippines. In this part of our report, we will cite the different factors of this urbanization. First is the attractiveness of urban life. It is the very first reason why urbanization has been occurred in the cities, because it strengthened the stream of migration from the rural areas. The perception by the ruralites of better employment, the opportunities, accessibility to service and facilities in urban areas bolstered the desire to start a new life in the city. Second is the existence of social networks in migrants' destination. If social network is not around, it will be too hard for the migrant to be assured of his kin of friends who will help them in the city. The third factor for the urbanization is the natural increase. It's when an increasing births and declining of death has occurred in the populace in the city. The urban ecological processes. The physical changes in the city and the way an individual adapts to the changing urban environment, which in turn influences the way the ecological process functions. There are different ecological process functions. First is the concentration. Concentration refers to the population increase in a given area as determined by population density. It is when people tend to cluster in certain areas to satisfy some of their needs or interests or to fulfill certain designated social or economic functions. The second is the dominance. It is one area in the city tends to have a controlling social and economic position in relation to the other areas. One example is of the dominant area is the Central Business District, because this is the hub of economic activities in the city and it also commands the highest land value. Gradient. It refers to the condition of receding degrees of dominance from a selected dominant center. Usually, a city has a high-value residential area with the cheaper prices in the adjoining areas. The same may be said of the Central Business District, which is an adjoining business area where prices of land are lower. Centralization. It is when various institutions and establishments are drawn together along lines of transportation and communication. A specific type of institutions and business clusters together in a given area. One example for this is the hardware stores in the Binondo district. Centralization. This is the scattering of business establishments functions from the main district to the outlying districts. This happens when the land value goes up and competition becomes keen in the central district. Invasion. Invasion occurs when new types of people, institutions, or activities enter an area previously occupied by different type. For example, is when a residential area are invaded by business or industry, such that residents are forced to move. And when an invasion is being completed, it is now called a succession. This is now a phenomenon which occurs when the new population or new functions gains dominance. The ecological segregation. This is when people of the same socioeconomic levels or ethnic characteristics tend to live together. This happens when it arises from the fact that people differ according to ethnic grouping, religion, social class, or occupation. For example, is the Chinese in the Chinatown and the Muslims around the mosque in Quiapo.